Geopolitics and Language Orientation Introduction. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the changing geopolitics and how have those changing geopolitics affected our orientation towards bilingual education and bilingualism itself. So it is not that what we how we think about bilingualism. It is not that it has remained static, but the way we looked at it or the way we assumed its role in our society has been changing, and it needs to shift again now. So the concept of bilingual education, if we look at the history, is definitely not new. It might surprise you that around 66,000 tablets were discovered in Aleppo, Syria, which is sadly come under such conflict now. So these tablets actually led the archaeologists to believe that bilingual education was at least 4,000 to 5,000 years old, and it was being practiced across the world. And in 1500 BC, bilingual education was there, very much there in the ancient world. So that is how old it has been. So if you think about this concept of bilingual education in a European context, then we see that Greek and Latin bilingual education was used to educate the Roman elite boys, because it was a time when education was considered to be reserved for the boys only or for the males only. So it was seen as enrichment. So knowing languages was seen as an education which was enriching. So not very far back, you might know your grandfathers or if you had or grand uncles who could speak even Arabic or Persian and Urdu and even English. So even in our context, bilingual education was very much seen as a part of and parcel of education. So we can say that bilingual education has been present throughout the history, and to tell you the truth, I would say it is still very much there in different forms. So there might be times, most of the times we might not even recognize, but it is being practiced. For instance, one form is that it has been quite common also in the past too, that the texts are written in a different register, either in a different language or a different type of language or different variety of the same language than that which is spoken by the children. Take the example of Arabic, for instance. You will find that the standard Arabic is very different from the kind of Arabic that is being used otherwise. And the kind of Arabic that is in the Quran, the classic Arabic, is again a different variety of text. Then coming to the translation of classical text, now being able to translate classical texts and religious texts was seen as a part of the education. So you had to translate Greek. You had to translate Latin. For instance, even now, you see that the understanding of religious texts, being able to translate all this is very much there. And it practiced in different contexts in Pakistan also. And then at times when the teachers are explaining something, the books might be in a different register or a text, and the teachers might be using another language in which they are educating the students. This is also a form of bilingual education. We will look at different orientations towards bilingualism, How has it been looked at as a problem, bilingualism as a right, bilingualism as a resource, and how during different times or different stages of history, the orientations towards languages have been changed. So once there was this independence of Asia and African countries after the Second World War, you find that there was this kind of critical look at bilingualism, and there was emphasis was being placed on this kind of structural functionalist need of bilingualism, and language diversity, however, was seen as a problem. And then how gradually it moved on to be looked at as language as diversity, as a right, and how eventually language diversity is being looked upon as a resource. We will look at all these three in more detail.